And today, developers are choosing Visual Studio Code as the #1 choice on the most recent Stack Overflow developer survey. And for a variety of reasons, because it's fast, it's lightweight, it's free, it's cross-platform, and has great support for multiple languages. So I'm the program manager for our Python developer tools at Microsoft, and I'm here to talk to you about how you can make the most out of using Visual Studio Code for Python. No matter if you've used it already for Python, used it for other languages, or never even heard of it before, I guarantee you'll learn something useful in today's session. So first of all, for those of you who are new to VS Code, what is VS Code? So it is a free cross-platform and open source code editor from Microsoft. It's fast and it's lightweight. You can just open any folder and start working with various files. And it has a very rich extension ecosystem provided by the community, partially because it's actually one of the largest open source projects on GitHub. There's a very active community. It's got very good built-in support for JavaScript and TypeScript, including rich features like IntelliSense debugging and source control, among other things. And I mentioned the rich extension ecosystem. The part that my team builds is the Python extension. And with the Python extension, you get those same rich capabilities for Python. So with the Python extension, you get IntelliSense, debugging, linting, testing, and refactoring. So if you want to get started with Visual Studio Code, simply go to code.visualstudio.com and click on the bright green download square. You can hit that. And one thing, while it downloads, it's a very quick download. You get taken right to the Getting Started documentation. This is great documentation. I definitely recommend reading it. And for Python developers, you want to move your mouse over to that little Python link over there and click on the Python tutorial, which this Python tutorial takes you through all the basics of getting set up. So if you're very new to it, I definitely recommend going through that tutorial. You'll learn all the basic features that you need to get going. So after you download Visual Studio Code, you'll be taken to a welcome screen that looks something like this. And as I mentioned before, you need to install the Python extension. Luckily, we've made that easy. We've got the Python link, which is right there. And you can just simply click on that to install the Python extension. And it will download and reload after you click OK. If you don't like bright blue links, you can also go to the Extensions tab in Visual Studio Code, where you can search for Python, and you can go to the Python extension right there and install it. Another quick thing to call out about this page here is that we've got a really good quick start set of steps for getting started. And then at the bottom of that is a link to our Python tutorial. If you're not sure where to find it, it's right there built in. Okay, so one of the first things I like to do after installing Visual Studio Code is to put VS Code on the path so that I can load it from the command line. This happens automatically if you install it on Windows, but if you're on Mac or Linux, you need to run a command. Now, to run a command with Visual Studio Code, you press Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P to bring up the command palette, where you have all the commands available to you in VS Code. In our case, we want to type shell and run the install code command in path. That will allow us to open VS Code from the command line, which I'll show now. So let's create a basic application here with VS Code. To do this, I usually start by, from the command line, creating a new folder. We'll call it make.dir new app, and then we'll go into that folder. And then because I put it on the command line, I can just type code dot, and that will open up VS Code in this folder. Now, you don't need to do that. You can also just click the Open Folder button here or do File Open Folder, but I find it very convenient to launch it from the command line. So building our first app here, I like to just click the New File button, and we'll call this hello.py. Press Enter. It immediately gets recognized as a Python file. You can tell that when you see the Python interpreter listed in the bottom left-hand corner. Quick tip, you can click on that interpreter to change to Python 3 or Anaconda or any other interpreter that you have installed. So we can select that interpreter there. And we can say print hello EuroPython and Command S to save. And then to run this, we can simply right-click and say run the Python file in the terminal, and then the built-in terminal will pop up and run that file. So that was a quick tour of getting started. Just to recap, we downloaded from code.visualstudio.com. We added code to the path, installed the Python extension, created a file, and ran it in the terminal. And because of the work that we're doing, Python is actually the fastest growing language in Visual Studio Code, and it's the most popular extension for Visual Studio Code on the VS Code marketplace. This extension is fully open source and was actually originally created by a member of our community, Don Giamani from Australia,